Hey, you're listening to the Give Back Podcast, a weekly podcast hosted by Give Something Back coaches, staff, alumni, and current students. Our mission is to support students from all backgrounds through the college journey. This season, we're focused on helping you thrive during your first semester at college, from your first day on campus all the way to winter break. Our second episode is called Resources. In this episode, we'll discuss all the ways that you can find support for your collegiate journey, such as how to interact with important people like professors and TAs, how to find key offices across campus, and how to navigate dorm life. As always, if you have any questions, give us a shout on Instagram, Facebook, or by email. Here are the time-coded sections for episode 2. Feel free to jump around if you'd like, or listen all the way through. Enjoy!
Episode 2 of our podcast, which is about resources on campus. Our first podcast season, or our first podcast episode, is on kind of that first day of school, right? Like the transition, those first few months of college. So I'm going to go around real quick and let's introduce who's on our panel today. And then we'll kind of get into those resources available to our students. So
I'm Shannon Labus, and I'm a student success coach. I've been with Give Back for 2 years, but I've been coaching kids in dance for a long time and have my own 3 kids that I try to coach.
Right, try to get them on the right path.
Yeah.
I'm Amada Morris. You may have seen me in the last episode, and I'm here with Give Back as a success coach.
Hey, I'm Lydia Matlock, and I've been with Give Back for about 7 years as our Chief of Operations.
Hello, Arthur Horn, Rowan College, South Jersey. Right now, I'm in the Education Opportunity Fund program, but transitioning to being a full-time professor, and also do a lot of stuff around working with students in high school and in college, outside of the college arena.
So if you have seen our first episode, just know that we're reading all of your comments. We're just so excited that y'all are excited and engaged. So please feel free to drop any questions or anything that you'd like to know more about. We at Give Back really are interested in making sure that we're bringing you things that are interesting to you on this podcast and ways to help you navigate kind of that post-secondary college system. So today is all about resources. So we can maybe start with some of those. I mean, resources can look like a lot of different things, like Mr. Harry and the toilet paper. That's a huge resource, right?
Absolutely.
But then there's also your financial aid office. So kind of where do you find them? When do you need to start seeking things out?
I think something I loved in episode 1, I think Amada said it, is to make sure that you go to your office hours, meet your professors, like don't be shy about getting in there and talking to them. You make a big impression. It can go a long way towards being helped in class, but also just the networking aspect of that, of like being a grown-up, being on a grown-up level, we introduce ourselves to each other, and that can be kind of huge. So I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah.
I think taking inventory of your needs
Right.
is very important. At the age of 18, you know yourself pretty well. So if you're able to say to yourself, okay, I know I'm an anxious person. You need to write that down. I have anxiety. I have depression. I have this or that. Maybe you need help financially. I need help financially. You write that down. So you're able to kind of take account of all these needs that you have. And then once you have that list, you're going to want to find these offices.
Right.
I think maybe you could share a little bit more about those offices.
So you got to remember, college, higher ed, any industry uses its own text lingo, right? So we got laugh out loud, LOL, right? So it's going to be a lot of acronyms that you don't understand. So one resource is, and trust me, every college website, yes, I'm saying every college website is overburdened with information. You will get frustrated. Go to the search bar and type in what you're looking for, right? And pull it up. But I think some of the things immediately to think about is, one, where are the services at? Your academic, right?
Yeah.
We mentioned your professor's office hours, right? We mentioned a resource for classes is your syllabus. Understanding that syllabus, taking that syllabus out, going through it, especially schedule-wise. Like if you have 4 or 5 classes, what's due, when it's due, it's going to take a lot of stress off of you if you understand that process, right? If you're having trouble, don't be afraid to ask for help. So we got the counseling services, right? Every institution, especially since the pandemic, has really dug in and looked at
Yeah.
our health, our mental health services for students that may be coming in college for the first time, and or if you're struggling and don't understand why, go see some campuses call it disability services, right? This is where you go if you had an IEP in high school or sometimes at any period of school. Don't be afraid to use your IEP, right? Because it's not giving you an advantage. It's giving you the tools that you're going to need to be successful and don't feel overwhelmed, overburdened, and frustrated, right? So go to disability services. If you need more funding, go financial aid, right? I know we're going to have an episode coming up on financial aid, but even if something happened, like from semester 1 to semester 2 financially, and let's just say money is lost in the family, you can go get an adjustment from your financial aid by filling out certain paperwork to submit the financial aid. Every college has a foundation. You need books, go to the foundation, see what they can offer you, right? So these are just some of the things that you can use to help you from a resource standpoint.
So you talked about how difficult the websites are to navigate, because they are. They have so much information. They're kind of overwhelming. Do you think college does a really good job at showing all that they offer? Like, do you think it's hard to navigate some of those schools to find those resources? Or like, how easy is it for a new student to find what they need?
I think it's very hard.
I think it's hard too.
I think it's very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wanna look through that website. But I think doing a quick Google search, what are the resources at college?
Yeah.
You're gonna get a big list of all these offices. They're going to be there at your campus, somewhere, hidden somewhere.
Or with a different
services-
name,
yeah,
or- yeah,
totally.
yeah.
Health services is a big one. If you're sick, if you need to get something like condoms, like they will be there.
Yep.
And that's very important. There's like we were talking about the counseling services. My biggest recommendation would be, if you know yourself, know you're anxious, know you're going through something, you want to schedule an appointment like quickly.
Because they fill up
They
so
fill
fast.
up so quick. I
Right.
remember when I went in, there was a line going all the way out the office, out the hallway, and then out of the door to the outside.
So you know you're not alone if you're
You know
struggling.
you're not alone.
Right?
That's
like,
true.
Because college does bring up a lot of emotions that maybe you
Yes.
didn't have in the past, or they didn't come to the forefront.
Yeah.
Maybe,
that
right?
you kind of just pushed away.
Yeah.
But you want to get on that quickly because you do deserve that help. And
they usually like financially, it's easier to go to those
covered.
counseling
Yeah.
centers or wellness centers. They
That's part of the money you're already paying.
right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So that would be my huge recommendation. You know, if you know you're going through something, maybe you don't even know you're going through something, is the other thing too. Stop in, make
Yeah.
that appointment, because the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to get it. Because if you go in on that first day, you might still have to wait till October,
I know.
and that's hard. But
I'm a big proponent of therapy, whether
Me
you're
too.
happy, sad,
I know.
you know, like there's just so many things
Yeah.
to share with somebody and to bounce things off of. And that's what, exactly, those are what your fees are paying for, right? Like you may have a $5 copay. It depends on the school. But it's worth it.
But
it's
it's
worth it.
available
It's
to you.
available.
So you should
use
take
it.
advantage of
Yeah.
that.
yeah,
Like,
And
if
like you said,
need-
even about the IEP, don't
Yes.
feel like
Yeah.
you can't let your ego get in the way of some
No.
of these things when you're looking for resources. You need like write it down. What is it you need? There is a place to find what you need if you're honest about it.
Right.
And don't let yourself get in the way of it.
yeah. And
Yeah.
even with accommodations, you might have something that needs to be accommodated that you don't know.
Yes.
That's available to you.
Right.
Like,
Exactly. Like there's certain symptoms of things that go totally unnoticed. And then there's other problems that you might have that you don't realize affect your schoolwork. Mm-hmm. And just taking advantage of all of these resources, office accommodations is a huge one.
Yep.
You're going to go get through school just so much easier.
Right.
You're going to be able to manage it.
So even with to give everybody a clue of what we mean by accommodations, right? So I have an IEP in school, in high school, or some part of my grade school level. I go submit it beforehand, right? So before the semester starts, submit to disability. They call you in. They go over that IEP. They might give you another assessment to see where you at. Like, so I have some students, their accommodation is more time on the test,
Right.
right? So you still taking the same test. So you got to study. It's not like we giving you an alternate test. You still got the same test
Right.
everybody else. But let's just say the test is an hour in class, right? Or even if you're online, I might set it for an hour. You strictly online for that class. It's an hour online. However, your accommodations may say double that amount of time.
Right.
So instead of taking it in class, you got to make an appointment with maybe the tutoring center. They'll have it, and you'll take it and get that additional time. Or if it's online, I teach classes online, so I set the timer for you a little bit more, whatever is recommended by disability service. Again, this is a federal law. I have no choice.
Right.
If a professor denies you this, go to disability, because it's a federal law that we have to provide you with whatever your disability services may be. So
Right.
again, don't feel ashamed. You taking the same test. So
The whole
study.
point is to
Right.
ensure your success.
Yes,
So
yes.
again, resources in general, like that's how you're successful, is
Well,
when
that's
you
the whole
know how
point.
to look and use those resources
Right.
available to you.
And you might get
Exactly.
an additional coach, right? So now you got that assess coach, you got a tutor, you may have your academic advisor, so you just add into the team. And again, I think we talked about in episode 1, the only way you get through college successfully is with a team, right? Your peers, people on campus, you get through it with a team, right? Because you can go it alone, but you're going to have a lot of scars and scrapes
Yes.
going alone. Make it a little bit easier so the scars and scrapes come. You have people that help you bandage the wounds as you helping them bandage their wounds as you go through.
When you're choosing your team.
Yes.
Right? Like, I think that's a big deal about college too, is again, you're an adult. You have more responsibilities. But you can pick your own team, right? Like, your mama didn't throw you on Tiny Tot soccer and you just showed up with whatever other kid is there, right? Like, you're picking your disability advisor. You have an academic advisor. You have a professor. You have, your roommate that you really like, right? That's forming this really strong community for you.
And don't be afraid if that particular, and again, it happened to me. Some students say, can I change my advisor? I'm not upset with it.
Right.
If I gave you my best, you might not feel like our relationship is where you want it. Ask for another academic advisor.
Speed
Ask
date.
for another, So find that person that's going to fit with you.
Right. Yep.
That's going to help you through this process. So just don't say, well, I'm not going to that advisor because I don't like the way, like, they just too hard. They like, yo, let's get it done. Where you might need somebody to say in a different
Little more
way,
cuddly,
a
little
little,
love.
right? But don't just not use it. Just put in a request,
Right.
right? And people understand, because all right, if I got 200 people and you want another advisor and we ship it to one of the 3 other advisors, now I got 199.
Even better. So let's break it down. So maybe we'll start with academic resources and then we'll kind of go through the different opportunities for you. So if we start with academics, what are your top academic resources on campus to help you through class?
Tutoring.
Tutoring.
Yep.
I feel like
Absolutely.
it's one of the most underused
It is.
resources, and to me, I think that's just silly because
Who
it's
doesn't
there,
need it?
it's available to you. It's part of your student fees. You should do it early
Yep.
so that when you're looking at that class going like, oh, I hate chemistry. That's not what I want to be taking right now. Well, then you better get in with a tutor and make sure that you're being successful.
I would have never made it through calculus without Kenji. And he is a name I will never forget, right? Like, Kenji was a Japanese foreign exchange student. He was at college with me. He walked me through calc in a way that my teacher would never have taken the time, right? Like, he
Right.
got it. He understood where I
Yep.
was coming from. And thank God for Kenji.
So
Yeah,
shout
right?
out to
Yeah,
Kenji.
Kenji.
Shout out.
Hey,
Shout out
Kenji.
to Kenji. Yeah, he was a godsend.
Yeah, I think that's so important to remember, like, when you're in class, your professor has a time to keep.
Yes.
And yes, you can go to the office hours, get that kind of reinforcement. But let's say it's for an essay. Your professor's not necessarily going to sit down with you and
Proofread
write
it.
the essay, proofread it, edit it. that's when you go to something like the Writing Center, where you're actually going to have a tutor. They're going to sit down with you, and you can write the essay, bring it back, proofread it with them, go through every single step with them.
Right.
If you're not good at math, you go to the Math Center.
Yes.
And all of these resources are just open and waiting for somebody to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
And now because of the pandemic, a lot of institutions have where, we had a certain time where the lab may close, the writing lab or the math lab may close by 8 o'clock. Now they have platforms where you can get a tutor online 24/7, 24/7. So if you up at 11 o'clock studying, writing, you can sign up for knowing I'm going to be up tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Let me see if they have a tutor available.
Right.
And go online. So it's really no excuse to not be able to use tutoring services
Right.
now, because colleges have made it a lot more easier and simpler for you to use.
Well, and there's one-to-one, there's
Yes.
group study, there's
yes.
online opportunities,
Yes.
they want, again, colleges don't want to see you just show up and not do well, right? Like
No, they're
whole
hoping
point-
you're going to be a very successful alumni for them,
Right.
And
So you
make
can
more.
talk
Then
about
their
it.
development
Yeah,
office will call
this
you
is a
later.
business. They
Yes.
want you to be successful,
Yeah.
so that
Exactly.
more business comes their way. So they're interested in you do well.
100%. And so utilize those services. I think that's really important. So academics,
I think another thing, observe your class, right?
Find the smart kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So I'm going to tell you right now, I can't roll my R's when it comes to Spanish.
No.
Never could, can't,
No.
right? Sat in front, professor, I was cool with the professor, Dr. England, like, listen, I'm here.
Don't sound local.
Yeah, I'm here, so I can't roll the R's, but I noticed it was one of my classmates, she was knocking it out the box. Getting the A's, rolling the R's, doing everything. One day at the class, I was like, "Oh, do you do study groups?"
Right.
Started a study group, right? And
That's brilliant.
And she helped me through that class. And on the opposite end, in some of my major classes, I raised my hand, answered questions, and so other people started gravitating to me saying, "Yo, you want to do a study group, right?" So it's almost bartering, right? I'm good at this subject, you good at that subject. Let's come together and form our own study groups, and then also we can still use the tutoring center.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So we've got tutoring, we've got writing centers, we've got math labs, we've got our peers, we've got our instructors, we've got major academic advisors. I mean, there's no end in sight to who will help you academically on campus.
Yes, yes.
All right.
And the 24/7.
And they're 24/7.
Yes.
Especially since the pandemic, and there's
Yep.
so many opportunities
That's such
online.
a benefit too.
It is.
That comes out of COVID. That
If you're a night owl, someone will help you at midnight.
And if you didn't sign up for a tutoring session, listen, we have stuff online.
Right.
Khan Academy is a great
Khan Academy.
resource,
Yes.
right? Like you in the classroom, they'll walk you through the steps. You go to Khan Academy, put in algebra, whatever, right? And they'll walk you through the steps. So there's a lot of different platforms out there, even that's free.
You're right. Free.
That'll help you look at it differently than you might be looking at it in the classroom.
Absolutely. So we've talked a lot about academics and how to be successful in your classes and meeting with your teachers, but there's also so much more to college than what you do in the classroom. And so in terms of resources, let's move on to health. So we know that students have both physical health issues as well as mental health issues. So what are some resources that we can find, or that students can find, obviously, to help them there?
I think every university is going to have their campus health center,
Right.
that you can go to, and it'll do anything from, you can get strep tests, or if you're really feeling sick, they can do condoms. There's just a lot that can be done there. I have a tip about that I would say some universities are connected with the hospital. It's a teaching
Right.
university, so be careful. Make sure you know which ones you can go to that are covered under your student, so that your
Plan.
insurance,
Yep.
is covering that too. So
And insurance is kind of a big deal on campus. Like I know obviously kids will have health insurance, they may have state-based insurance, you may not have health insurance, and you can purchase that through your school, but don't let insurance be a detractor from you taking care of your health.
Right.
Because most of these health centers do offer things on a sliding scale for
Absolutely.
payment. They're not going to turn you away.
Right.
So that's something really important, I think, whether that be mental health resources or physical health.
And even in the community, you have qualified health centers.
Right.
Right. So maybe if one close to you can check it out, they'll slide and scale, or even it might be free because of your income level. So don't be afraid to see what's out in the community also.
Right.
Yeah, like one of those places could be like Planned Parenthood, right?
Yes.
Where like Planned Parenthood, like this health center, you're able to get STD testing, which is really important.
Yes.
Like, let's be honest, contracting something like an STD can be something that is embarrassing, but it's something you have to take care of.
Right. It
Absolutely.
can only get worse.
Yes.
Right. And the prevention is obviously the key. That's why you're going to want to get condoms from the health
Yeah.
center, you know, if you're going down that route, which is normal because you're an adult.
Yes.
But it's also to say, like, there are a lot of resources in terms of health that you're going to want to kind of know
Yeah.
as being an adult. You're now in
Right.
charge of your health.
Yeah.
So, you know, learn where your Planned Parenthood is. There are so many things that they do there besides just pregnancy tests.
Yeah.
Yes.
So many things.
And community health centers, same. Like
Yeah.
you can do anything at those places,
Yes.
including mental health resources. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for our kids, no matter what financial place they're in, to get help. And like you said, they're not just going to go away. Like
Yeah.
you can't just have pneumonia and just hope to
Wish it away.
wish it away. It probably gonna get worse before it gets better.
Yes. So make sure, just like we talked about academics, don't be afraid to go get assistance.
Right.
Don't be afraid to go ask, especially if you got an STD. Do something with it, because whatever it is, after a while, it's not just going to be, let me take some aspirins and take
And keep it going.
Yeah, keep
right.
it going. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not everything works that way.
Right.
So.
And you don't have to just push through it either.
No.
Yes.
There's so many people who want to help you. Again, but you just have to ask.
Yes.
You just have to ask for that help.
Well, and I think that's communication too.
It
I think
is.
oftentimes freshman year, you're sick a lot because
Right.
you're in a new environment and maybe a communal bathroom, like all these. You're at a vulnerable, level. Yeah,
Yeah.
like with
It's like
illness.
like when you start daycare.
Like right, or
like,
school, or like if you're a
school.
teacher and you go back.
Yes.
These are times. So I feel like just mentioning that communication is such a good thing. Like with your professors, if you're really ill and you've been
Yes.
and you've got but strep can knock you down for a couple of days. So just communicate with your professors too.
Yeah, send that
what's
email
going on
out
with
the night
you.
before.
Yes.
Don't
Please.
send it 5 minutes
Not
before
during
class.
class when
Yeah.
you're not
Right.
there.
Right. When there's obvious you're not.
Or don't wait until 3 weeks later.
Yes.
When grades
turns
about
out.
and you like, oh, I was sick
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. All right, I can't do nothing with you.
Right.
Right.
Like, so be proactive, reach out. And the thing about professors, I might get dinged for this, but everybody not your friend. All of them not friendly, right? But the majority of them are willing to work with you. So just send that email, copy your advisor on there so it can go to multiple places. If, again, disabilities, if you're part of that, that department, also copy them on it. You want multiple people to see, like, all right, I'm trying to make a conscious effort to, let you know where I'm at.
Yeah. And also with health and physical health, there's usually a gym on campus, an athletic
Yes.
facility.
Also part of your student fees.
Also part of your
Yes.
student fees. YMCAs now are building on campuses. So use that. If you want that serotonin boost or take a Zumba class, like
Yep.
go for it. Makes you feel better.
And even because anxiety, it's that mobilize our immune system. You anxious, you overwhelmed. Going to the gym, like you just said, getting on the treadmill or on the bike. We're not saying you got to go and get ready for 2028 Olympics. But,
I'm not.
But, walking on the treadmill or walking the campus helps, with that anxiety or feeling
Yeah,
overwhelmed.
absolutely.
And it's not going to compromise your immune system.
Yeah.
So those are some of the other resources that you can use that's free.
Right.
Yep.
And what I think is so interesting is that I think it's 11.9% of college students have reported anxiety disorder. And when you're out there on your own, and this is only the people who are aware that they
Yes.
have
Yeah.
Right.
anxiety,
Or
mind
who are
you,
willing to
who are
report.
willing
Yeah.
to report
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
movement is so key because you're kind of incentivized as a teenager to move around. You have gym class for one. You do have to seek it out on your own.
Yes.
But another thing that is kind of interesting, there are classes that are movement based.
They are.
So
yeah.
if you're really not going to want to kind of seek that out on your own time, do a class.
Right.
Yeah.
Do a dance class. Do a I want to say one I heard of was different movements throughout like gym classes.
Yeah.
And all of the kind of acts that have happened
They're
throughout gym
electives,
classes.
right? So take
exactly.
those electives that almost force you to get out and
Yes.
boost that serotonin
Yep.
and get that moving, and that's great. I mean, as a dance major, I'm sure you had lots of.
I had
those.
lots of them, but
Right.
we always had non-majors in
Yeah.
classes too. And I even now I think that's a fulfillment of a humanities requirement.
I think you're right.
oftentimes. So, you know, if you know that you have anxiety, you know that movement is going to be good for you. Do yourself a solid and maybe sign up for one of those first semester to get it started.
Yeah.
Like you were saying in episode 1, like no one is there telling you to eat.
Right.
No one is there telling you to sleep. No one is going to take you down for a gym class. So take these things upon yourself and be proactive and know that that's what you need to do for yourself.
And even if you're not a dancer, you're embarrassed about your movements.
Oh.
Like I'm tight, I'm stiff, whatever. A lot of colleges have theaters, right? Go volunteer to help set up the scenes and move things around
Absolutely.
because you're part of an environment that's going to give you some natural energy, going to help you, feel like you, again, part of the campus. And that social connection helps with any of those, that 11 point, what you said?
0.9.
0.9%, right? So we probably can triple that because,
Right.
Just
a lot of
knowing,
people just
yeah.
don't know, or like we said, report.
Yeah.
That's another thing when usually they have like campus days at some point, beginning of the school year. Take a walk, look at the clubs that are available. That's
Yes.
another free resource. If you know movement is something that you need to have in your life, then there's probably a walking club. There's probably a running club. I know at my son's university, there's a squirrel watching club.
Who doesn't like that?
Like,
right. There's a
and
club for
literally there were
everything.
like
Yeah.
kids that did it and they
Yeah.
just sat on campus and had conversations about things. But like, find your community too, because that is going to be another really helpful way to just get yourself going someplace.
Yeah.
Thought an interesting one at Temple was the lettuce head eating club.
Oh.
They would all have a big head of lettuce and they would just shove it in their mouths.
So you could do
Literally.
anything. in a
You can
club.
do anything in a club.
Wow.
And, there's a statistic that I think it's 7 to 9% of students are depressed.
Right.
Period.
Which again is low, I would
It's
say.
a low percentage,
Yeah.
but a high number. If
Yes.
you were able to throw all those numbers out there, that's a lot.
It
And
is.
again, there's only people who are aware of it, who are self-reporting it.
Right.
So when you kind of have that social structure that to kind of lift you out of that, no, that might not cure your depression, but you can kind of bookshelf it for a little bit. Deal with it when you're able to. And I thought that was one of the best ways was to stay social when I was the most depressed, because you're able to kind of reinforce that idea that you're not alone.
Right.
And you're able to find so many connections in that too, share the stories. So clubs, just so important.
Awesome. Okay, so we've done health. Let's move into student life. So student life obviously can mean a million things, right? So that stems from everything from housing to international students to gender identity to diversity and inclusion. I mean, it's across the gamut. So like, what are some really good examples of student life resources to search out?
I think the International Student Office, for one, would be important if you're coming from another country, if maybe even English isn't your primary language.
Right.
I feel like you should be able to visit that, kind of get that out there, but they might help you set up accommodations, again, which are very important.
Right. Yeah.
I think knowing when you live in the dorms where things are in the dorms, you've got your, washer dryer, where if that's on your floor, or if there's a whole floor of them, where to get a vacuum cleaner from.
Yes.
How to keep your room, your space as clean as you need it to be. Like, it's not just the janitor that cleans the bathroom. Like you can wipe out after yourself too if there's
Right.
issues, but you need to know where those things can be found. So I think the front desk at your dorm is a great place to make sure the people that are working there, they're probably students, and they can help you find all of those things too.
That's a good point about students like working at those places.
they know.
Like career services is another option because you need people to work front desks.
Yes.
You need people to work in the, health centers. Like all of those are student jobs. So that's just something to talk about later. But
and you're building skills, right? This is not academic skills. You building life skills, right? So if you're in an apartment type setting and the bathrooms are internal into your dorm room, this is where, if you've never done it before, this is where you start learning how to clean. Right.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to clean, you know how to hit YouTube up and put in how to clean bathroom.
Yep, you'll find 87 videos
And
right off.
somebody gonna give you a free lesson on how to clean your bathroom. Because again, going back to the health, the cleaner your environment, the more your immune system can keep building up,
Yes.
right? So if you got a dirty apartment, and again, going back talking to your roommates, if you have roommates, all right, let's have a schedule who cleans, or if you know the other people don't clean the bathroom well and that's your pet peeve,
Then
you
just
can say,
do it.
listen, I got the bathroom. Y'all three figure out the other stuff.
Take out the
You know what I'm saying?
trash,
You got
right.
the trash, you got
Vacuum.
If you're
Yep.
cleaning the bathroom, I'll clean anything else.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Right.
yeah. But if you mess it up too bad, I'm gonna come in and help you clean, but I'm just gonna be the co-pilot. Right?
Yes.
You cleaning up the vomit or whatever.
Let's hope
that
not.
happened before. But I mean, those things you're gonna take with you as you move
Absolutely.
out of
Yeah.
your college career. So just don't think is this something I'm doing? It's something you add into your tool belt, right? So you add in these things as you move forward.
Well, and I would say in terms of housing, your RA is your biggest resource, right? Your resident assistant, the one who lives on the floor with you or lives in that building with you. They know pretty much everything about the campus. I mean, that's their job.
That's their job,
right?
yeah.
Like, is to know where to guide you, where to send you. So use them. And like, if you're having a hard time or you're worried about getting out of your room because maybe you're in a depressive state, those RAs are trained to be
Yes.
able to help you. They're one of, I think, your strongest resources for on-campus
That is a great
living.
resource.
Yeah.
I mean, anything from mental wellness, physical wellness, cleaning supplies, but even like faith.
Yeah.
You know, where can you go to worship if that's what you want to do? They really do. That is their job.
Yes.
But they're also kids. Like
Yes.
they were just where you were just a few
They get
years
it.
ago. So they're not going to feel judgment. They're there to help you. That is the point of what
Right.
they're doing.
And I
So
think the key that was mentioned, they is trained, right? Because when I was a RA, we had to go through this training. We had to know where the resources were. We had to learn how to, connect with our residents on the floor, and also, help guide them as they move through. I had freshmen, so, this is their first year there. I'm a senior, so it was important for me to show the example. Also, when we talking about living on campus, as we move through our freshman year, then we become a little bit like, I don't want to live on campus. And you move off campus to apartment, with some friends. Let me just suggest this: have a cohabitating contract. And if you don't know what that means, Google it, right? But a cohabitating contract is all four of us are roommates. We got a contract to say how much we paying for this rent, right? If we got cleaning responsibilities, whatever responsibilities, it's all written down. So, at one point in time when we was eating lunch, Judge Judy came up and some of the other judge shows. What's the typical case that come before them?
Roommate.
Somebody didn't pay.
Right.
What does the judge say?
You have to pay.
Is
have
it
a
in
contract?
writing?
contract. You
Right.
got a contract.
Is it in writing?
Right.
If it's no, hey, listen, I can't help you. Y'all figure it out. If it's in writing, I pay you, and you because I didn't fulfill my part of the contract. So again, as you move into college, now you becoming more independent, as we mentioned, but also you got to have relationships that might not be lovey-dovey, because it's like the movie with Martin Lawrence it's a thin line between love and hate. That's the same thing with friendships or relationships, right?
And roommates.
And
for sure.
roommates,
Yeah.
right? So have a contract written.
That's
and-
such a great recommendation, though. Anyways, just because so many relationships break down over lack of communication, because you're like afraid to say like, oh, you left a mess in the kitchen and it's bugging me, so you hold on to it, and then you explode about something that is not
Yes.
related at all,
Resentment.
and now you don't know that the whole
Yeah.
thing was you just left your eggs on the stove. Just
Exactly.
clean them up, like
Right.
it's no big deal.
And
So-
RAs help
resentment.
with that, with
Yes.
mediating those kind of
Yes.
fights.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's another
Yeah.
part of what they do is mediate, because
Yeah.
you won't always like your roommates.
Right.
Sure.
That's just
And
the
that's
nature
okay.
of it, and that's okay, right? So I think those are a resource we
Yeah.
really have to
Resentment
consider.
is something that is only curbed by communicating.
Yes.
That's it.
Right.
That's all it
Yes.
is.
Agreed.
Anything else is just going to build up.
Right.
And the same goes for a roommate, of
Yes.
course, because you are living together, and you
In a
have
small
this
space.
unspoken contract. Like, we need to both have it together for each
Yeah.
other
So
as much
speak
as we
it,
can.
write
Speak
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speak it out loud.
Right.
And if you can't speak it, text it.
Text
Write
it.
an email.
Yes. Put it
You
in
got
writing.
it. You got to get
Nicely,
it out there somehow.
nicely,
Kindly.
kindly,
Yes.
nicely, you know.
That's
And
good.
also, if you're a commuter, find those spaces on campus that's built for the commuters, right? Because again, everybody not going to live on campus. So, but it's spaces on most campuses where commuters can go and convene and have their space too.
The commuter lounge.
Yes.
Yeah,
Commuter
that's
lounge.
where I was
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so we've talked about dorms. What about other student life opportunities? So obviously there's Office of Diversity and Inclusion, which they do a ton of on-campus
Yeah,
activities.
you can't miss them on most campuses. I
Right,
don't
they're
think.
just so
Yes.
integral into that day-to-day fun and experiences. But I also think it's nice to have a resource on campus where you can go to just chill out sometimes, you know, and a lot of times a student activities office or something like that, there's like comfy chairs or like
Yeah.
bean bags
Yeah.
or, you know, because they want you to be in
Right.
there. So I think that's important too, is to find a place you can just kind of go relax. Or they have like free printing. That's always like
Free
a win,
printing.
right? Like if you come in, you get 20 free copies
Not
or
a quarter for paper.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
I think one of those places would be the campus center.
Yes.
Every school is usually going to have a campus center where you're going to have a little bit of food that's out there, like restaurants might be available, but that's also going to be the spot where you're going to see people in study groups.
Right.
You're going to just see that life of the campus. Great place to meet with other people. It just makes that campus feel alive.
Right. And there's usually a resource desk at
Yeah.
those campus
I was going to say, I
centers.
feel like on a lot of college tours, somewhere in the basement of that building
Yes.
or something is a lot of different, you know, cultural, you know, anything, resources
Greek
that you're looking
life.
for are
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
for
absolutely. And usually the campus bookstore.
Sure. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
get
buy
a
your
lot done.
overpriced texts and your hoodie. Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So those are kind of student life resources. And then I would say kind of the last one that I think about and one that I think is super important that students don't pay enough attention to is kind of that pre-professional piece of it, like that junior, senior year, or even before that, where you're looking for internships, career services, you know, places like that that write your resume or, you know, student jobs on campus, things like that. So why do you think kids don't go there? Because I feel like it's very underutilized.
I think that resources in general, you have to know that they are everywhere.
Right.
Like, I think when I was young, I really thought like, oh, you're a professor, you know everything. It's all like in your head, and you don't realize how often you're like, you know, opening a book or you're googling
Yeah.
something or you're, you know, like you don't have it all in your head. But you know where to find it, and you know
Yes.
that it's findable.
Yes.
And I think that alone, once they realize that, it's like, oh, it could be everywhere. But it's also a practice of like constantly asking questions, being ready to learn something that you don't know. Why would you know how to get an internship just off
Right.
the bat because you're a business major?
Right.
Like maybe you don't know that, but every college that is on your campus has opportunities for you. You just have to figure out where to find them. I think, again, your professors are a great place to start. Your TAs
Yes.
are another great resource for you.
TA's teacher assistant, GA's graduate assistant. I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
acronyms in
Yes.
college
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
think
What
people,
is that?
people
Yeah.
get lost in, right?
Yes.
So yeah, but your TAs and your GAs are typically younger. They've kind of just graduated, so they kind of have more of a handle on what's going on. So they are a really great resource.
And maybe a little bit more approachable if you are
Yeah.
intimidated to go talk to your professor.Maybe you find, you know,
Right.
somebody else.
Sometimes
that
they'll
knows
teach
that.
like lower level courses, your 100s or 200 level courses. So yeah, that's a really great resource.
So if you get nothing out of college, the one thing you can always take with you is learning how to research, right? Learning how to research, as you just said, those resources, and then take that research and gather all the resources to help build what you're trying to build. I think one of the things when we talk about career centers, people underuse them, it's because one, most colleges understaffed. You know, you got whatever amount of students, it might have 5 people for all those students, right? And so it's hard to get to all the students. And plus 2, I think we do a poor job at most colleges, right? Not saying all, but and depending on your major, right? And how to develop you from an academic mindset to a career mindset.
Right.
Is not a smooth transition. So it's like, here, you got a degree, here you go. Safe journeys, you know, make sure you support us, send us some money, you know what I'm saying?
Good luck.
Congratulations.
Join the alumni group.
Yeah, join the alumni group, but it's I think colleges, especially now, to keep students coming, we got to find a way to do a better job of connecting your academics to your career path, right? And then the other thing is that don't be afraid to use your resources to change your major.
Right.
Right? Because a lot of times we go and like, I want to do this. At the end of your first year, you like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I ain't like chemistry 101 and I got to do 3 more.
I don't want to do 102.
I don't have my man, what's his name? What's chemistry?
Kenji.
I don't have Kenji. Kenji
Right.
not with me, right?
I can't do it.
Yeah, so don't be afraid, especially at your first year, to make that transition, because you want to try to do it before you get deep in your sophomore year. And that goes also into your career planning, because it's like, yo, I'm getting this degree. I don't even know what I want to do with it. So in your sophomore year, like was mentioned, start going to the career center to take the assessments. They have assessments you can take to figure out what's your strengths. If this your major, you should be in internships, right? Some paid, some unpaid, but also if you get financial aid, you get an opportunity to work on campus, and or some campuses have what the college pays for the student worker, right? So those are some of the ways you can build your portfolio.
So we have a couple questions. So we've had, keep them coming, guys. Keep sending us your questions. We love them. We want to answer them on the podcast. So we have 2 really great questions I wanted to bring up. The first one is from Christine from Minnesota, and she says that she doesn't have a car. So are there resources for transportation to off campus? Like if they needed to run errands or things like that, do campuses usually have those opportunities?
It depends on the campus.
Right.
Right. Some of the bigger campuses may have shuttles that take you around. Depend on where you located. Are you in the city? Are you in a rural part of the state? It could be a lot more difficult. So again, when you're planning on where you want to go, these are some of the things that you got to take into consideration, which we don't talk about. Like, I want to go here. All right, there's nothing around you.
Right. Are you sure?
You sure?
Yeah.
Like, so if you don't have the resources, right, like a car, like when I went to Lincoln, we in the middle of nowhere. Like, I saw the Amish families in horse and buggies riding in front of us when my family was driving me up.
I'd follow them.
And I was like, where are
There's
we
resources
at, right?
there.
Like, I'm like, that's the first time I saw it on TV, but I'm like, yo, where are we at? Like, where's the school at, right? So again, some places do have that transportation. And again, when you're making your decision on going to school, right? And I think in episode 1, you made a great point where transportation, if I'm a commuter, but I want to go to X school, do you have the transportation to get there?
Right.
Is there a bus route or is there a car? Right. So.
And how much does it cost for a parking pass?
Yes.
On top of that,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
Some schools, I mean, it's
Sometimes
pushing
it's
$800 a year.
Yeah.
Oh, even
So it's
that,
something to really pay attention
Oh,
to.
yeah.
But
insane.
shuttles, sometimes cities have transportation that come through the
Yes.
campuses. Your roommate may have a car, a friend that you make may have a car, but that's obviously something to consider as you're choosing what school you want to attend. Absolutely.
And if they have a car, it's not free. You
Right.
still got to
Pay
give a couple of
gas.
dollars for
Yeah.
gas.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
right.
Yes.
All right, so we have one more question from Jackson in California. Are there deadlines to use these resources? how soon should you start looking for things? So like, let's say, health center. We talked about this and maybe in the last episode too. There could be a 2 or 3 month wait.
Right. Yeah. Especially for counseling.
Yes.
Counseling really has a huge wait.
Yeah.
And are those always going to be available during winter break?
I don't know.
Not really.
Right.
As far as with the health services, as long as you're able to get in there, great. But I wonder about something like tutoring. How we were talking about. Yes, maybe it will be available past midnight. But once finals are coming up, if they're all booked up,
Yeah.
you might be out of luck.
Right. So
And
you need to
that's-
jump on resources
you
early.
do. You need
I
to
think
jump on
sooner rather than
resources.
later is
Right.
always better. Like
It's
even
better
like
to
we
have 'em
talked about
before you
changing
need 'em.
majors and things
Yeah.
like that. Like there are deadlines on when you
Yes.
can change a course, drop a
Yes.
course, things like that. So if you have an inkling about that, you need to make an appointment with your advisor so
Yeah.
that you can take care of that sooner rather than later, I think.
I think what we've talked about a lot, and it kind of all encompassing, is being right? Like proactive instead of reactive, and also self-advocacy. Like you need to speak up for yourself. You need to know, you make a list of all the things
Yeah.
that you may need, right? All these resources, and really look for those and try to find the right people, talk to your RAs, have open communication with your professors. But that all goes back to advocating for yourself and not waiting for things to happen to you, but being in front of it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And I think once we circle back around to give something back and kind of what we do for our kids, I think that what's important, what we really try to teach, is self-advocacy. It's one of our huge tenets of who we are. It's something that we talk about all throughout all of our programming, and something that we work with students on is just how to speak up for yourself, how to advocate for yourself. You're your own number one fan, right? And if you're not, you should be, because no one's going to care about you. No one's going to do more for you than yourself. And maybe your give back coach, right? Like, let's say, but we want you to feel really confident when you step on that campus, that you know your resources, you know where to find them. And that's something that you can get through our program. And so please always leave comments, always leave questions. Go to the website. If you haven't watched episode 1, go back. We talk a lot about that transition to campus that flows right into what we talked about today with your resources. So thank you all for being here with me today. I think it's really exciting to learn about what campuses can do for you. And we'll see you next time.
Our coaches at Give Something Back are here as a resource to help guide you through your college journey. To contact us with any questions you might have, or to apply to a Give Something Back program, go to giveback.ngo and fill out the form at the bottom of our homepage. Additionally, you could DM us through Instagram or through Facebook, or you could email us at info@giveback.ngo. We look forward to hearing from you. We'll see you next time.